Tomorrow is opening day. At last, and I suppose you, Bill Geist, have baseball on your mind?
Indeed, Charles. I'm excited about the season, but naturally, as a coach, I'm a little worried about finding a 9-year-old girl who can throw it all the way from third to first, but we're cautiously optimistic about our team.
No, you misunderstand me. I was thinking of the Major League opening day.
Oh, that's right. Well, since this is network television, we might as well talk about the major leagues a little bit. Yeah, tomorrow's opening day, and there's one other thing that I'd like to mention, and that is that in Houston, tomorrow, the 25th anniversary of the Houston Astrodome will be celebrated. A big birthday bash down there. And as you know, I don't really like domed baseball, but the thing that I really love about the Houston Astrodome is that it was the idea of one crazy Texan, and I guess it had to be a Texan, who just didn't like all the heat and the bugs and the humidity, so he just says...
natural grass.
Indeed, the grass all died when he built that, and AstroTurf was invented. But the big moment will be at 1:05 Eastern Time tomorrow in Boston Fenway Park when the Major League season gets underway.
Well, it's high time, I'd say. You went to spring training.
Yes, we did. There are a lot of people were kind of upset that some time was lost at spring training. There are people who want to observe a moment of silence tomorrow when the players take the field, but fat chance in Fenway that I think that's going to happen. People who think that because of the lockout some time was lost and that they feel that messing with the national pastime is sort of tantamount to flag burning. There are others of us who aren't so sure what the big deal was all about. We missed some cold, miserable games the first week in April. The season was supposed to start last Monday, and indeed there was an exhibition game between the Mets and the Yankees that was snowed out.
Just yesterday.
But I think really what bugged a lot of the writers and the fans was that they kind of missed 3 of the 6 weeks of bliss in Florida and Arizona. Despite threats by feuding owners and players that there might be no baseball this year, players sprouted on green fields once again this spring, as surely as the crocus and the dandelion. World wars never stopped baseball. Spring training is a kind of dream world of players slowly reawakening to baseball, where this sort of thing passes for exercise, and players knock off for the day around noon. It's a time of hope and opportunity for players trying to hit it big and make the major leagues. Ed Noddle, manager of the minor league Pawtucket Red Sox, has been coming to spring training for 30 years.
Anybody that's in professional sports, not trying to make it to the top, might as well get the hell out because he's stupid. There's no money down here.
So you're trying to make the majors too?
Period.
Everybody down here is trying to break into the majors. What are you doing down here at spring training?
Well, we supply all the major league teams with sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds? Sunflower
seeds, yeah. The ball players are going away from the chewing tobacco and are looking for something else to substitute that.
Even the umpires are trying to make it to the major league. Now, do you practice at home?
In my bedroom or down in my rec room, I do practice, and try to get my style down.
You got a wife and 3 kids. What do they think when you're in there practicing, yelling?
They think I'm nuts.
Spring training is a chance for fans to see their heroes up close.
Third base coach.
It's an opportunity for a Connecticut restaurant owner to get some new autograph photos for his walls.
We go back a lot of years when he was in Bristol.
What's spring training all about?
Well, if you haven't had a chance to have a cold beer over the winter, it lets you get back and practice for that.
At spring training, Ed Noddle also brushes up on his infamous lounge act.
Like a band of gypsies, we go down the highway.
Actually, what happens is people hear me sing and they say, well, maybe he can manage. And then they watch me manage and say, maybe he can sing. My way, yeah, on the road.
But baseball isn't all fun and games. Despite the seemingly relaxed atmosphere, there are goodly amounts of fierce competition and high anxiety here beneath the sunny skies and swaying palms. There are about 200 players here in Red Sox uniforms. 27 will go north. The stakes are enormous. The average annual salary in the major leagues is about $600,000. Some of the minor league players will make $850 a month. Others will have to turn in their Red Sox uniforms and go home without a job.
I think it's a tremendously competitive business, and you can't get it done unless you head south and play ball for a while.
Much of the attention is focused on the drama unfolding here at first base. There's a host of players vying for this position, ranging from young rookie sensation Carlos Quintana, eager for his chance, to the sentimental favorite, 40-year-old Bill Buckner, trying to stave off the end of his career. 21-year veteran Bill Buckner has more hits than any player in the major leagues today.
There you go, Billy. Good shot. Come on. Good wrap, Billy. Hoping to win it for New York.
Yet he is most remembered for one single error he made as the Red Sox first baseman.
Ball gets by Buckner, rounding third night.
Letting the ball go through his legs to open the door for the New York Mets to win the 1986 World Series.
In stunned disbelief. A slow ground ball went right through the legs of Buckner down the right field line.
In the media, I think, got a little carried away, and I don't believe that so much emphasis should have been put on that. I mean, I had a lot to do with getting us in the World Series. We got there together, and we went down together. A few guys that would have liked to have things turned out a little different in the World Series, but you know, that's what makes it a game.
It does something to you mentally, Bill, but you just can't let it get to you.
Johnny Pesky knows just how Buckner feels. Pesky, a former Red Sox great, still suits up for spring training. But he was the shortstop blamed for holding the ball and allowing this key run to score in the Red Sox 1946 World Series loss to St. Louis.
Third base at full speed, scoring all the way from first, when the relay throw from Johnny Pesky reached home too late for a play on Slaughter.
I've suffered through the years on that. People have accused me, and every once in a while you go into a supermarket and say you're a bum and all that. But
that's 44 years ago, and they're still coming up to you in the supermarket.
I'd love to, for it to happen the other way, but it didn't happen that way, and I have to live with it.
With spring training just half as long this year because of the lockout, each error, each at-bat, takes on twice the significance. In this inter-squad game, Buckner faced a talented minor league pitcher, half his age, and just as determined to get Buckner out as Buckner was to get a hit. This day, youth won out. After Buckner grounded out, Billy Joe Robideau, one of Buckner's chief rivals for the first base job, came to bat and hit a home run.
Get over somebody's head. Get over the fence.
I think Billy Joe Robideau probably has the inside track if they're looking for a first baseman and left-handed bat. If they're looking for just the left-handed bat, then I think Bill Buckner's got a good chance. He has problems with running, but he can still swing a bat. He's having a fine spring.
You know, all my kids, my oldest daughter's just starting to realize, you know, she's kind of been a motivating factor for me, too. She really wants me to play another year, you know. She kind of likes the fact that her daddy's a, big league ball player.
In the end, all of Bill Buckner's hard work paid off. He'll be in a Red Sox uniform tomorrow on opening day in Boston.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Kuralt.
He started out to be a lawyer. 100 years ago this year, Henri Matisse realized that he was not as much interested in writs and statutes as he was in light and color. The result of his change of careers may be seen right now at a great exhibition in Washington, to which Bruce Morton is about to conduct us. How lucky we are that Matisse, the lawyer, saw the light.
Henri Matisse, as he saw himself in Tangier, Morocco, where he spent about 8 months in 1912 and 13. What he saw there made him paint masterpieces on display now at the National Gallery of Art. He went to Morocco for a reason only a painter would give, for the light.
He traveled places not to see the places, not to see the people, not even to see the landscape. He traveled to see different qualities of light.
Pierre Schneider is a critic who has written about Matisse.
The light in Morocco doesn't burn, it doesn't scorch, it's fluid, it's like sherbet. And you can tell it looking at his pictures. That kind of, his pictures in Morocco are sweet.
There almost weren't any pictures. Matisse arrived, it rained for days. He wrote Gertrude Stein, "Shall we ever see the sun?" The light, he wrote, was as bright as a cellar.
Suddenly the rain stopped and the sun came through, and he saw those emerald expanses of grass. The robe that Riffian was wearing probably wasn't green at all, but he had that green imprinted in his mind, in his brain, and he needed to show it. In that sense, you might say vegetation sort of impregnates all the works. The people he paints tend to look like flowers.
Matisse did a lot of drawings, too, many of them only recently discovered.
We have a sense of being in the artist's footsteps. For me, this is great.
Jack Cowart is the National Gallery's curator of 20th century art.
We have always been struggling to know more about the man. We know a lot about the artist, but we see him here making this personal journal of his own experience, which, again, livens up the artist.
The critics say the drawings are not studies for the paintings, but you can see a thread between these old photographs, postcards Matisse sent to his friends, and the drawings, and some of the same scenes in the paintings. Matisse had a hard time finding models. Moroccan women all wore the veil, of course. He finally found a prostitute named Zora who would pose. He painted her often. Some of the paintings come in threes, though they weren't all sold that way. This set, called the Moroccan Triptych, was sold to one man, a Russian collector. In fact, two Russians bought a lot of Matisse's Moroccan paintings. This show is a collaboration. Paintings from the U.S., but also from Moscow and Leningrad, where the show will be seen later on. Soviets and Americans traded information, not just pictures.
The whole team which worked on Matisse project and on this catalog get together, and we worked, for instance, in Paris together, and everybody knows something which other do not.
Albert Kastanievich is curator of modern European painting at the Hermitage Museum in Leningrad.
It's very important, this exchange. This is real cultural exchange.
Matisse painted a lot of these over and over again, reworking.
And as he told Gertrude Stein, why is it that it's so hard? Why is it that there's such a struggle? But sometimes, he added, it's so sweet when it comes all by itself.
What Matisse would have made of all these people in formal clothes staring at his art in between conversations, we'll never know. What he made of his time in Tangier was light and color, and a return to nature which changed the whole rest of his artistic life. And of course, he made paintings people still love to look at.
The economic bigwigs of the 7 big industrialized countries of the West are meeting in Paris this weekend, and that's where we find Ray Brady this morning, looking a little bit like a bigwig himself. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Charles.
Sometimes these meetings produce big news and changes in exchange rates and interest rates and all that. Anything like that going to come out of this meeting, do you suppose?
Well, it's pretty hard to tell, Charles, because the ministers of the big industrial nations came out with a very cryptic communique. One saying they were going to keep watching the drop in the Japanese yen, which has some of them pretty upset. But they didn't say definitely whether they would do anything, whether they would go in and buy the yen to kind of prop up the price. They kind of left the rest of us dangling, and of course the world's financial markets are dangling, wondering what they should do, whether they should buy or sell the yen. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
In the meantime, the Japanese stock market has been performing alarmingly for a couple of weeks.
That's putting it very mildly, Charles. You know, it was very funny to see the Japanese here with their hats in their hands, because a few years ago it was the Americans with their hats in their hands. But Japan has got a 25% drop in its stock market so far, and the yen has been dropping like a stone. And one of the reasons is that Japan is really in big trouble today. If you look at its trade figures, it's dropping around the world. They still have a big surplus with us, but it's dropping with the rest of the world. They've got inflation that's rampant over there, and they've got a shortage in the labor force. So if you've got any of those books that's saying the Japanese are invincible, their economy is going to climb to the skies, you can throw those books out. The Japanese are turning out to have feet of clay like the rest of us, and they are in trouble. And that's why the yen is dropping. That's why the stock market is dropping. In fact, the market's lost about 25% so far. It's their Dow Jones equivalent, which they call the Nikkei Dow. That's now at 28,000. It's probably going to drop to about 20,000, and that's a big, big drop. And bad news for Japan, Charles.
Well, isn't it also, Ray, bad news for the United States if the yen continues to drop and the dollar continues to strengthen? Doesn't that mean trouble for business here at home?
Yeah, it could, Charles, because it's one that we've been through before. When the yen drops, it makes things like Japanese cars and videos and all those things, it makes them much cheaper here. And conversely, it makes anything that we try to sell to the Japanese more expensive over there. So that this trade treaty you saw them talking about this past week, where we're going to sell more to Japan, they're going to buy more from us, that may not work as well as the politicians would like you to think because of the way the yen has dropped.
I should think all these finance ministers who are meeting there in Paris, Ray, might be a little confused because the future is a bit confusing. We don't know how the German unification is going to work out, for example, and there are a lot of other question marks on the horizon, aren't there?
Yeah, there are all kinds of question marks on the horizon. The biggest one, of course, especially for the people here in Europe, is the case of Germany. And what you've got, of course, is the two Germanys getting together. And on the one hand, you have the highly industrialized West Germany with all kinds of economic know-how, with all kinds of capital. And then you've got the East with a huge body of low-paid workmen who are highly educated, highly skilled, but haven't had a chance to use those skills or those working conditions under the communists. So once the West Germans get in there with capital and know-how, you could see Germany become a real economic powerhouse. And that's got a lot of the other Europeans worried, because Germany will be very dominant when that new European common market starts up.
Meantime, new markets are opening in the East. Look at Hungary.
Yes, you know, we were in Hungary a few days ago, and in every lobby of the hotels there, all you hear is the sound of Americans in there, American executives buying up companies, doing trade deals with them. You see, one of the things when the communists had Hungary, they had a rebellious population. So the Communist Party chief said, look, you people just toe the party line, and we'll let you have what we'll call goulash communism. You can have little businesses on the side, you can have a little farm. We'll overlook it as long as you keep quiet and don't make too much trouble for us. As a result, Hungary was moving into the capitalist orbit early. They know what they're doing there, and their workmen make about $100 to $150 a month. So you've got Americans flocking in there to take advantage of all that.
Ray Brady in Paris. Ray has a way of making all these complicated economic issues sound simple, and we thank you for it. And come home soon.
Thank you, Charles.
Dr. Billy Taylor is here to talk about Sarah Vaughn, who died last week. It's hard, isn't it, Billy, to think of popular music world, a jazz music world, without Sarah Vaughn.
It really is. She was such a giant, and she was a great musician, first of all. I mean, many of the people who talked about her all last week were saying that she didn't consider herself a jazz singer. Well, one of the reasons...
Boy, I considered her.
So did I, and everybody else that listened to her and was influenced by her. But she sang such a diverse grouping of songs. She sang everything. She had a record that, when the Pope was a young priest, he wrote poems, and someone set them to music. She recorded that. Years ago, when she was a kid, she recorded Ave Maria, and I was in the band. It was a huge orchestra that Columbia Records put together, and she sang this marvelous version of Ave Maria. Now, here's a jazz singer who had just finished playing with Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker, singing all kinds of the same music that they did. And, you know, she had that kind of diversity in her singing.
She was. I guess I first heard her sing 30 years ago in one of those big barns, Stuyvesant Casino or Central Plaza or someplace like that. And what knocked me out was her range. Of course, everybody talks about that, but what was it, 3-octave range or something?
Marvelous. She had really a contralto sound in that contralto range and a soprano sound in the soprano range. I mean, she's such great control. People who were musicians would marvel at the fact that she would hit a note. You'd hit a chord on the piano, and she hit a note that was nowhere in that chord, but it worked because she was a pianist, and she could hear those different kinds of tonality, and it always worked. So when singers who didn't have that kind of musicality tried to do what she did, they didn't always have the musical background to do as accurately as she did. It was like pushing valves. The note was absolutely accurate. She had something that I enjoyed very much. We did a commercial together one time, one of those Do You Know Me things for Amex. And so we spent a day together out in California, and I went out to her house, and she played the piano, and she's a good pianist. She really had a lot of harmonic things that she liked to do. And you could hear how she had developed along with Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker in those early days with people like Charlie, well, in Earl Hines' band. Billy Eckstine really loved the kinds of things she did, and in Jazzmobile we produced something that was her 40th anniversary concert. She leaves us, though, her voice, and she leaves us with all of those people in all of those styles that reflect the influence of that voice.
Big applause introducing Miss Sarah Vaughn, the star of our show.
She worked clubs, jazz festivals, and concert halls. In 1982, we found her with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. She was dubbed the Divine Sarah, called the greatest jazz singer beyond category, the greatest singing talent in the world. Sarah Vaughn was great, so great, in fact, that her gloriously unique talents are appreciated by fine musicians from every style of music, such as conductor Michael Tilson Thomas.
The kind of musical insights that she has are like between the language of blues or Gershwin or even Alban Berg and Schoenberg, and sometimes, I mean, when she starts playing a tune by herself, she just goes further and further out until she's in keys that, you know, it's way beyond A, B, C, D, E, F, G. She's in the key of, you know, L or K, Q, you know, the key of X. She's really out there.
That's sweet and low, 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 low. That's sweet, that's sweet, that's sweet and low down. Hey, we got that, don't we?
It's okay if I pick up the tempo?
Now I like it. I don't like nothing if I don't know it.
And her versions of what she chose to know were classic.
Won't you tell him, please, to put on some speed for
Sarah Vaughn had dozens of hits. Misty was one of her signature songs.
Look at me. I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. Feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. Like it's misty. Just holding your hand. I love to sing, and it comes easy to me. It's no problem. As that guy else says, no problem. I just love singing, and I never took singing lessons, just piano, which I thank my mother so much for making me do this. Welcome to Bubbles.
She was also nicknamed Sassy for her mischievous sense of humor.
That knocks me out. You know, we played the Constitutional Hall in Washington Friday, and we played West Point at Eisenhower Hall Saturday, and we played Symphony Hall in Boston Sunday, and Monday we opened at Bubba's. The clowns, there ought to be clowns. Well, maybe next year.
In the news of this morning, we're sorry to tell you that Ryan White, the young man who so impressed Americans with his courage in the face of AIDS, died this morning in Indianapolis. Ryan White was 18 years old. We leave you this morning on a high plateau in Colorado. The world wears winter white a little longer up here than in the lowlands, but the green of spring is underneath. The last white crust of winter is about to tremble and give way. I'm Charles Kuralt. I hope you'll join us here again next Sunday morning.
See you